I can tell you there's a big market for the actual casing of an S9. Um,
Yeah.
in the FPGA world, there's quite a few folks that are stripping out old LTC miners and old S9 miners just for the casing, and they send off
Yeah.
the boards to to be put into an immersion rig, if that is still profitable. Otherwise, they dump them and they just want the casing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that is an interesting and weird business, and lots of creative stuff is happening with the ASIC case.
You know, so here, and tell me what you guys think about this statement, but I just find a stark contrast between how I think about my iPhone and how miners think about ASICs. And I feel like the fiat system creates hardware that is constantly being planned, like there's planned obsolescence. The whole point of it is to sell you more hardware. And when it comes to Bitcoin, like, and mining in general, like, no hash rate is wasted. Like, the Bitcoin network is going to squeeze every last drop of utility out of that piece of hardware possible. And I think that that is like bullish for humanity. Like, this is what we need to stop like destroying the world and use our resources better. What do you guys think of that?
I don't think that semiconductor manufacturing is dangerous for any of us. I think that any amount of semiconductor manufacturing increase is good for the world. So I think upgrade cycles on phones are good. I think it's good for ASICs too. I think that, you know, silicon is one of the most abundant elements in the Earth's crust, like silicon and oxygen. So if we're using more of it, it's a good thing.
I'm not talking even about producing it. I'm just saying like not wasting it. Cause like I have like 4 iPhones that are in my closet.
Yeah, I feel like it's a different demand of the, I mean, the miners in China and miners out of China, because miners in China, and because they have like the lower power cost during the wet season, so they are looking for the miners with economy. So I think that's why they're still like running as night as because they are still making profit, even it's very slight profit, but it's still profit for them.
Who wants to jump in? We don't like silences here on the show.
Well, I guess like I think there's further improvement to make. Like we were just talking about reusing casings. Like, you know, in a lot of industries, you know, we standardize certain components, like just so, you know, you don't have one-off components on every screw is not like a different thread, right? It'd be nice. Like I think we're getting there. Like I'd say maybe in the next cycle or two, maybe we'll get there where everyone's like form factor is relatively the same and you can just reutilize casings, reutilize fans, and the only thing you swap out is the hash boards. Like that to me is a logical progression, but I don't know if it'll ever happen. It depends on how competition is. Like someone's got to make an incentive for that to happen. Like someone's got to almost like build a hash board, like a modern hash board that fits like an S9 casing or something, like and profit greatly off doing that. And I think that's the only way that'll happen. But you know, there's still room for improvement. But
I think that there is incentive for something like that to happen, but I wouldn't expect it to happen quickly. The vast majority of the costs of an ASIC machine are going to be the actual chips themselves. The aluminum extrusion for the casing and the fans and even the power supply are relatively little in terms of resources relative to the cost of the ASIC chips themselves. And I think we're still seeing evolution in ASIC design. Like the form factor difference between going with a single 120 millimeter fan to 2 120s or a 140, that was a big difference. You're going from a 1400 watt server all the way up to a 3000 or 3500 watt server. I think that's a huge difference. I think we're still going to see evolution in terms of heatsink design, in terms of like one thing that I really like about MicroBT is their exhaust temperatures are a lot higher. So that allows you to not have to move as much air to get the same cooling effect. So you've got essentially you're exhausting hotter air. You've got a bigger temperature differential between your intake and your exhaust. I think that can still continue a lot. Like, MicroBT is now using thermal paste or thermal greases instead of just thermal epoxy, which I think is, that's a huge improvement. But I think there's still a lot of improvement to be done on like heatsink geometry and ASIC dimensions. And I think that the cost of reusing those components, the savings of reusing those components, isn't nearly as much as the potential optimization of having more sophisticated geometries.